Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mastering the Drop, a real view of recovery, where we don't just talk about the standard societal view of what addiction and recovery are. We talk about all of life recovery needs. And this week is absolutely no exception. In fact, this week is probably one of the most prevalent spaces where we find that people need to have a life recovery journey. In fact, I know many of you who are listening, you're listening for that very reason, because we had the conversation about, wow, you need to hear what my guest has to say in this episode. And so, you know, that situation is grief. And we grieve so many things. We grieve the loss of loved ones. We grieve the loss of relationships. We grieve having to change our relationship with food and alcohol. We grieve, just the changing, ever-changing thing called life and how things morph. But what we don't know, and what most of us don't do, is when we grieve, find that space of gratitude to add in. In fact, most people look at me and they're like, what the heck? Gratitude? How am I supposed to find gratitude in this space? Don't you know I'm hurting here? Like, I'm struggling. Like, there's nothing to be grateful for. So instead of listening to me, who's not an expert on grief, but an expert on finding gratitude, I wanted to bring Jenny in here to share with us on a deeper level. She's been here before, but I wanted her to come and share with us exactly what we need to know about how grief and gratitude can coexist, right? So with no further ado, everybody, this is Jenny. And Jenny, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, because it's just easier that way. I don't have to mutilate anything. Jenny, introduce yourself. Thank you again so much for coming back to share more of your wisdom with us. I loved hearing your story the last time, but wow, we're so ready for your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me on again. It's such a pleasure. I'm Jenny Dilts, and I'm the founder of Grieving Coach. I'm also the host of the podcast Share Your Story, Exploring Humanity One Heart at a Time. And I stand as a lighthouse for grief. I help people convert grief into growth in whatever way that looks like for them. One of my biggest passions is helping people find their own way to grieve in their own time, in their own way that's unique to them, because all of us are unique. And so I do this through educating, supporting, and inspiring people in the field of grief.
That is so amazing. That is so amazing. And I think my favorite part of what you just said is that we are all unique. And so, I've seen so many people trying to go in order of the book, right? Like the different stages, and they try to force themselves to go into order, right? Like, I should be at this stage, and I'm at this stage, and then I thought I was at this stage, and now I'm at this stage. And they try so hard to do their grieving process perfect. And that perfection that they're striving for in their grieving process is based on somebody else's, version. And the part that they're not hearing is that you are unique, and how you are experiencing this grief is going to be unique to you.
Absolutely.
And that it's not going to go in any specific order, and it may ebb and flow, and it may bounce around, and you may be in one stage more than once. In fact, I think the last time we chatted, we were talking about how it doesn't necessarily end. It just changes. So let's talk about that, because I know everybody's dying to hear, so we'll just cut to the chase, right? And so to speak, right? But gratitude in a state of grieving, like, how does that, in its simplest form, how does that translate?
So if you're not at that stage of gratitude, that's okay. It's okay to be in the very raw, painful, dark place of grief. That's actually very healthy. And I'm going to preface this with, if we jump to that gratitude stage too quickly, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to really grow from our grief, to really experience it. And you may be saying, but I don't want to experience it. It hurts too much. It's too painful. I don't want to go there. I face it every single day. That's the key, facing it. Facing it every single day. Because when we feel the pain, when we experience the pain, that's when the growth and the healing occurs.
So it's almost like, and if I bring in words that I use in the work, considering, you know, a large part of the listeners are clients or past clients or prospective clients who listen and follow along. So if I tie that into what we talk about in our recovery journey is, well, two things: lean in and go for the ride, right? Or sit in and move through.
Yeah.
Because there's no way around. You can go around, but it doesn't make that part of the journey happen, right? So if it's like if we skip, so we have the alphabet, and this is another really good one, right? So we have the alphabet is A to Z. And if we try to skip over D, E, and F, right, or remove it from our path and our journey, really all we've done is leave a gaping hole that needs to be filled. Or it's a pothole that we fall into, right? Or something, you know, we're trying to jump over, right? There's no way around it. It's not the alphabet without D, E, and F. And so for that to be a complete journey, we have to experience D, E, and F.
Yeah.
Here's a thought, and maybe you can, you know, bring some clarity to this. My mother recently passed away. Well, right before the summer, right before Mother's Day. And for me, I experienced gratitude very early. But I think perhaps, you know, because I think maybe other people might also be saying, oh, okay, well, I experienced gratitude before the dark stuff, right? And for me, I think the dark stuff happened before she passed, and then came the gratitude, right? My mother lived with Alzheimer's and dementia. And so when she passed, she was at a stage where she couldn't articulate like what was going on inside of her body. So she had a peripheral bowel tear and was just complaining about her back.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So there was that gratitude, one, that post-surgery she didn't hang on too long enough for all of us to say our goodbyes. But also there was that gratitude that she could now be free from the cognitive hell, excuse my language, folks.
Yeah.
She had been in for years. Like, wow, how awesome. She's now someplace else where she can have memories of what she did 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
You know, that where she's not trapped in her childhood, which was all she had left. Right. And that even those memories have become a lot of fantasy, or, you know, an alternate reality. So there was a lot more gratitude for that, right? Of course, there was, you know, then the the not so gracious things, like why did she have to go in pain? Why did she have to go through the surgery? You know, like why couldn't she have just gone in her sleep? And
Yeah.
you know, those kinds of things. But you know, so gratitude can happen, I guess is what I'm saying, right?
It's not limited to any part of the process.
Okay.
It's not limited to, oh, you have to go through the dark, ugly first before you can face the gratitude. But in a way, you already did.
Right.
You went through the dark, ugly probably when she was diagnosed, probably as you were watching her decline.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, you had experienced the pain,
True.
the darkness,
Right.
and you were able to experience the gratitude of she's no longer in this place of darkness and pain, of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say grief and gratitude can coexist. Because there was the grief, the anticipatory grief before she died, and the gratitude of when she died, and also the grief when she died. Why didn't she die before the surgery? Why didn't all of these things happen? Why couldn't I have done anything more for her?
Right.
It's like two sides of the same coin.
Right. So, okay, so that part of it, that makes complete sense.